Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new day, new time for this live stream. Yes, for us, the hosts, we find that Fridays work a lot better for us. And this time, which is 12 noon in Los Angeles time, works a lot better for our co hosts who are around the world and that are global. So, except for one person, we actually have a wonderful, incredible guest that was going to be coming on, Don Tolman. Those of you know him, but he's now moved to Indonesia and it's 2 a.m. in the morning there. So I don't know how we're going to be able to fit him in. Thanks for being with us. And we have a new co host who, because we moved to Fridays at this time, can actually be with us. So I'd like to say welcome to Phil Grist and bring him on. So, Phil, just unmute yourself, please, and say hello and tell us something about yourself. We're going to be speaking today about your own transformation.
Oh, wow. Okay. My name's Phil. A little bit about me. So I started my raw food journey 25 years ago in 1999. Um, just from reading books, got inspired and went down a rabbit hole of a rabbit hole of raw food. And briefly, 2005, found myself in America with Gabriel Cousens at the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center, where I spent 3 months training with Gabriel to do to be a spiritual live food instructor.
Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, the other co-host on as well, Pete Taylor from Simply Gorgeous. I've spent a lot of time with Pete doing lots of festivals and saunas all over the UK. Transformation-wise, enzymes have played quite a big part for me. Been really inspired by Lou Corona as well as Gabriel Cousens. Dan McDonald's played a big part in my life as well with his influence. Robert Morse, lots of the older people on the circuit actually that have been very inspirational for me, as well as going down the chefing route and chefing with some quite prominent chefs in the UK and some from America.
And what difference did you see in your own life when you made the switch? And how did you make the switch? Was it something you did overnight? Was it gradual? And what inspired you to do so?
Okay, so for me, it was very gradual. My health transformation started in 1994 when I went to see a nutritionist and stopped eating wheat and cow's dairy. And straight away from that, I noticed that I got calmer. I lost a lot. I lost weight, but it was that, the kind of puffy, inflamed weight from wheat and dairy that we get. And so I noticed that fell away very, very quickly. Even though weight wasn't particularly an issue for me, it was really interesting to see the kind of the bloatedness that I didn't even know was a thing, and that all fell away. And I actually went really quite thin while my body was trying to readjust to not having those things in my lifestyle. And then I stopped things like alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol since 1997. I used to smoke. So I was a builder. So, I used to work hard on site and drink hard down the pub and play hard back in those days. But I made myself really sick. And, wheat and dairy played a part and it helped a little. And then I went organic, and then I found myself being meat free. So I'm also a gamekeeper's son. So in the UK, for people that don't know, it's game shooting. So our job was to look after the pheasants and keep them safe for the aristocracy. So my life involved a lot of shooting and a lot of meat and eggs and a lot of nature. Actually, a lot of nature, and that's one thing I do miss from that lifestyle now is the incredible amount of nature that I was born into and lived in for a considerable time of my life. so I stopped eating meat, which was really interesting for me and my whole family. And I wasn't eating meat, but I carried on shooting until one day I shot something and went, I just can't do this anymore. It's just not right.
Did you just say one day you shot a human?
No. I shot an animal, and I just felt remorse for the first time. I just felt remorse, and just that was a life-changing moment where I just couldn't do it any longer, and I haven't, and that's been 26 years, I think. So that I think for me, the transformation that's been the main thing for me has been consciousness. And it's very difficult to explain to people that haven't gone through that conscious spiritual awakening how much you change and how you view the world and how your beliefs and thoughts and how you interact with people and so on. Nature, for example, I wish when I was in nature I could interact with it and experience it the same way that I do now, because it would have changed a lot of things for me. So I think it's been consciously, I mean, lots of subtle illness that was part of normal life, and normal people kind of suffer with aches and pains and bad wrists and bad knees and bad backs and so on and so forth. And those things just slowly drifted away over time. And then my desire for cooked food left. After that, my experience with the meat, I've never wanted meat again. And I think that was 1998. I've never even been drawn to it at all or again, and I don't miss it. I have no desire for it. I have no withdrawals for it. So for me, it was quite a slow transition. Then in 99, when I decided to go and follow the raw food lifestyle, it was a hard path back then, especially in the UK, because no one was, there was a few people doing it, but not very many. And the books were hard to come by. I had no internet, so I couldn't just Google and find the answers or whatever search engine people choose to use, ChatGPT, whatever your choice is now. There was none of that. So it was a slow thing to find people and groups and become part of things and books. And then obviously by reading books, in the back of the book there's further reading, so you can then do further reading, and then you can phone places and get put in touch with people. So it was I say slow, but I think in some ways it needs to be like that, because then you get this wisdom from doing things methodically and slowly, because you get that integration, so you can understand what it was like to drop away those certain foods. And then your peers and your family, everyone has to adjust and readjust and get used to you, and a lot of my friends fell away, and now I'm back with a lot of my friends that I've been friends with since I was a boy, 4 or 5 years old, 3 years old even. We're now able to be friends again because I can understand where they are, instead of being evangelical about the raw food and health and the understanding that you get of cooked food and raw food and all the chemicals that are in normal food, and the difference between organic and biodynamic and conventional farming, which is a massive difference. And I don't need to, excuse the pun, ram it down people's faces now. I can talk to them, and they can be where they're at, and I'm happy to be where I'm at. And if they find that interesting, that's great. And if they don't, then so be it.
That's lovely and very interesting, the way you spoke about doing it methodically and slowly. And that is what I constantly teach to my clients when I work with them, this is not going to be something we do overnight. I see a lot of people changing overnight from a meat and dairy diet. And as soon as they change and they feel any kind of elation coming from their bodies and begin to feel energetic, they become evangelists, just as you said, and they begin to evangelize rather than just spending time with themselves and methodically and slowly assisting their bodies to actually adapt to the new reality. They actually go outside of themselves instead of going internally and rebuilding themselves from the inside out. They try to do it from the outside. And that to me is a big turn off, big turn off, which is why I do not ever call myself the V word, ever. Other people will refer to me as that. I see sometimes articles are written about me, and that's the first thing that they say. And I went, I've never used that word. How do they get that word with me? So I was the one who started to use the word plant-based. My first book was called Plant-Based, and it took off really big. And I'm starting, I changed the name now, and I'm saying plant abundant or plant rich, and or plant deep. So this interesting thing of evangelizing, I think, is what puts people off so much. Did you feel, I'm going to go to our co-host, Bella, can you remember the first time somebody started talking to you about this lifestyle? Did you feel like you're being evangelized, or was it soothing and calm and seductive to you?
You know what? I can relate to Phil's story, actually, where I went plant-based. I went vegetarian first in 1996 in Northeast Florida in Jacksonville, it's actually very influenced by the Southern culture. So I didn't know any vegans. I knew one vegetarian, and I had been interested in it already. So I never felt evangelized to, but I can relate to your question in another way. Later on, as I began interacting with more and more vegans, I felt that I felt frustrated dealing with what I would call very preachy vegans. And they were actually, I felt that they could actually be very judgmental towards me, who was already living that lifestyle. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I relate to what you're saying about the V word. You know, I use it in my handle, and I use it whenever I go to restaurants. But other than that, I'm with you. I don't like the term because it's become so loaded. It's become so, I don't like the association it brings up with evangelical personality types. I'm with you on that.
Yes, I think it's become very militant.
Yeah, and it's quite a turnoff because I personally would like to see more people giving up meat and animal products. And so it bothers me to see the militant style of communicating. I don't think it's helpful, especially towards other people who are doing the best they can. You know what I'm saying? Like when I interacted with preachy vegans and I was already on the committed path, what I would find was criticism towards something like, oh, you're still using white sugar. Oh no, you're not a good vegan, that kind of thing. It's like, what? You're like, what? It makes you question your whole identity and whether because you're also, a lot of times you do choose this path for a moral type of reason. And so it's very similar to being part of a religion where the fellow religion, the people in the same religion as you are trying to tell you that, no, you're not following the path right. You're not a good person.
I so agree with you because I see it as a cult. I would go even further. So, Sabina, how would you respond to this? Did you have the same kind of issue, and did you also find that some people were just a bit too strong for you?
Yes, I mean, I fully aligned with what Bella shared and also what you shared, and I don't use that word vegan anymore because I got constantly negative comments from people, and also being part of different vegan communities, I realized there's so much judgment that I just could no longer be in that frequency. So I actually don't want to be associated with vegan or raw vegan or anything like that. I'm actually not a vegan because I do eat honey, so that technically it doesn't make me a vegan. And so I actually don't, for me, it doesn't, I don't even want to be of some group or some movement, because this, as I said, there's a lot of judgment towards others. And actually my closest friends, they all eat meat. Everyone in my family eats meat. And if I had also a lot of judgment towards meat eater. I'm actually, judging the people that are the closest in my life, and the people who were there for me when I was in a lot of challenging. These are the ones who stepped up, were all the meat eaters. So if I have judgment towards them, so at some point I realized in myself that it was about many years ago that I have a lot of judgment towards what people eating. When I was at a dinner table or invited, I would look and, how could they eat such a thing? And I noticed I became judgmental myself. And that was really the red flag that went off. I have to let go of a certain label or being part of a group or some movement. And I'm just, trusting what my body naturally guides me towards, which is plant-based. I'm not attracted to the smell or the visuals of any animal product. So it's just not my path, but I don't have any judgment towards those who choose that path. And really being aligned to being open to this is where they are right now. This is what just works for me the best. And, like really accepting and not judging, because that's really poison. The moment we judge others, we're actually poisoning ourselves. And then you can eat all the clean food, do all the fasting, but then all that poison, emotional poison, is in your system. So yeah, that's just where I stand right now.
Thanks for bringing that up, because when we become so judgmental and so incredibly strong and almost violent with our own belief systems and what we see as our new lifestyle, for some reason we use it to beat other people up. And I really like what you just said now, that it doesn't matter, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what you eat. If you remain the same inside you, your thoughts, your feelings against the other people not doing what you're doing is of a violent nature, is of a very, very derogatory nature, you haven't changed, nor have you brought your frequency up to match the frequency of the food that you claim has assisted you in changing. So there's a lot of work to be done before one can actually say, I have arrived. And I think once we say, I have arrived, that means it's time to give up the body, and the universe will say, okay, we don't need to put you here anymore. We're taking you to another sphere right now. So it's interesting that people think that once they go this route, they're now the be all and the end all, and everyone should really follow them. What say you, Pete?
Can you hear me okay?
We can, Pete, yes.
Oh, right. Well, hi, Dorit. Hi, Phil. How you doing? And Bella and Sabina. What do I think? I mean, it's great. I mean, we're judging ourselves ultimately, in terms of, if, let's say I'm youngest of 6, I would regularly come with my raw lasagna, be on the beach with them with economy burgers, tenants, and even other things. So, and that's not a judgment. What I see, I witness, you can be very transparent, and people can put the projections onto you as if you're judging. Yeah, for me, it's there's a fine line with healthy boundaries as well. You can accept. The more we accept ourselves, we obviously just this symbiotic relationship. You just automatically accept others. The ultimate, we are all one. So I found I would just do my thing. Ultimately, if I'm getting caught up in anyone's story, it becomes my story. It's debris in me, unresolved stuff in me. And yeah, you're so right when you mentioned a cult. I laugh. It's funny. It's just witnessing that us species, the way we are programmed, very in a divide and conquer, we can still attach, and then haven't done the emotional work. So we're so hanging on to this belief system. I play with it. Yeah, raw food, vegan, plant-based, etc., etc. ITEL, Vitel, whatever, really. You know, I mean, but do I have attachment to that? No. You know, I'm just choosing in terms of even my thinking and my protocols. It still is a type of attachment, but I'm going to choose what I feel most serving for me, and respect others to what they feel is the most serving for them. However, learning healthy boundaries. I have probably mentioned it before. 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have had to look that up in a book. That's been my conditioning, you know, really busy in the, you could say, rat race of it all, that always kept busy, not really to think too much out of the box until, you know, some serious wake-up calls, really. And so that's been my experience. So it's you know, I have a kind of thing, if someone invites, I will share. Someone I believe crosses the line, I'll go upstairs and it's like, oh, well, I'm told, right, you can say this now. So that's the way I go. But I will play with labels, because unfortunately we're very stuck in labels, stuck in the weaponized of labels. So to recognize it, as going back 17 years ago, I had to really recognize literally the label of color, you know, weaponized color. I was shown to look more deep in that in terms of my meditation and stuff like that. Not that I have a problem with it. It's just like it is. There's a problem in society and the psyche that's being embedded. So there's the problem. However, to acknowledge what we're in is a beautiful thing. And yeah, I have another topic. Shared so much time with Phil. Really nice to see you here, Phil. And yeah, he's told me so many stories. You know, I think he forgot to say about his amalgams. Me and him share a mercury fillings in our mouth. Couldn't get out of bed. Legs feeling like lead weights. And we've shared some beautiful stories, which I'm sure I could remind him of many of them, and very inspirational. And I jumped on the wagon about 18 years ago. He was 23. There's other people, Paz, they were around that era. And, you know, I'd hear stories where, you know, they're working with, you know, either cacao beans or cacao chips, nibs. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So they're making in terms of chocolate anyway. So, but that's my experience. Yes, of course. If I get caught up in it's entanglement. If I'm getting entangled, it's really wise to look within and have that kind of protocol of thinking and a system to kind of really realize that we become the co-creator, or seeing it as an opportunity that it has brought up some debris in us in terms of the trigger, the reaction. So the more neutral you are, you know, you will get other people have a beautiful opportunity to work through so much. That's what I will say there and leave it there.
Oh, I rather like that. We have an opportunity to work through so much. So we have got Herb with us. Herb, we're speaking today about transformations, of course, and specifically Phil's. And we're looking at the fact that with some of us needed to leave behind the slaughterhouse mentality of, you know, eating animals, but I think Phil was different because he didn't get his meat from a slaughterhouse. Is this true? You actually killed the animal yourself. Is this true, Phil?
To an extent, yeah, to an extent. But lots of our meat did come through conventional way as well. But some of the meat, yeah, I used to shoot and fish, and in America, I used to hunt. Yeah.
What was different for you when you actually killed the animal yourself versus getting it from a slaughterhouse?
That's an interesting question. yeah, I'm trying to think back all those years. I wasn't overly conscious back then. You know, it was meat on my plate.
So the reason why I'm asking you for that, Phil, is because I really acknowledge Native peoples, Aboriginal peoples. For example, let me think about the First Peoples Nations of Canada, Native Americans. A lot of the tribes, they didn't just eat an animal; they actually took the animal's life themselves and transferred it into themselves. So they used the whole animal. They spoke to the animal. They actually called on the animal before the killing. And then they had this feeling that they had to live out now the animal's life. They were now responsible for this animal's life, and they had to live it out, which I think is very different from a slaughterhouse mentality where you don't know the animal, you have no contract with the animal, you have no connection to or with the animal, and you're just eating a slab of whatever, which is actually not edible in itself. And most Native peoples also eat it without cooking it. And but now it's cooked and it's greased up, and all this stuff is made, so you have no connection to the fact that this animal had a life. Maybe it had children, or maybe it was the child itself, maybe it was the young one, and there's no connection to it, that the bird that flew overhead is what you're eating now. And so that's why I'm asking you this, Phil. Even then, when you're not as maybe at the level of consciousness that you are now, did you feel more calm when eating that, or connected to the meal, than when it was bought without you having ever met it or taken part in its life in any way?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for the clarity of that question there. Yeah, definitely. There was also a sense of, you know, because I was very young when I was probably 8 years old when I first shot an animal and had it for my dinner. So that, yeah, there's, you know, connection, because you've got to understand the animals, you've got to understand where they live and how they move and where they're going to be, and you've got to understand, you know, even with that level of consciousness, I had to understand where I was going to be in their environment and where they were going to be in my environment. So it wasn't just, it wasn't just to kill an animal. It was there was a lot of interaction with the animals. I also now just wish I'd had that level of awareness where I could have communicated with them and, you know, actually thanked them and asked their permission and, you know, so on. And I just didn't have that. I just didn't have that awareness. And that's, you know, it's a shame and it's sad, right? Because it would have been much more spiritually interactive, like Native people. Yeah, just thinking that through of
Yes, because what I'm thinking here is that if people, before they actually moved to a plant abundant lifestyle instead, and transitions and migrated from eating animals and animal sources, if they did that, then we wouldn't have this militant, almost to me obnoxious attitude about the V word, that I am now V and everybody else must be V. And I'm not using that word. I never use it. I'm not going to start now. And this is the best way. And I'm more morally superior to you. And because I eat this way, then, you know, that you are beneath me now. And the way they use it to beat people up. That's what we're talking about right now, Herb. Anything about this conversation that pops up for you?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. I was listening to the stream and what you were sharing, and yeah, it's all valid. I feel similar to what Pete shared, you know, playing around with labels. I call myself vegan. That's purely commonplace for speaking up for the animals. It's an ethical stance, ethical lifestyle. There's no judgment or condemnation with others. I see all of us, everyone else, as innocent. We're all children, and we're all shaped by our environments, our conditionings, programmings, upbringings, and many of us are unaware. So there's no judgment, condemnation, people that aren't vegan, and I totally get and understand what has been shared on this stream about being morally superior. I've seen it, I witnessed that, but I think it goes deeper than that. It's a level of awareness and consciousness within each of us. If we're not having compassion for everyone else, then you're kind of a bit of a hypocrite, really. I get that. When I first went vegan, well, before I went vegan, I was like trying to source the best animal products I could find, like all grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised, all singing and dancing, if that happy cows, if that ever exists, and tried to justify it, and thought maybe it'd be better if we source it ourselves. You know, if I can't harm an animal myself and eat it, then should I even be eaten in the first place? And then once I made that connection with dairy cows, went vegan overnight, didn't look back once. It's like a light bulb effect. My eyes were wide open, my heart had opened, and I wanted to tell everyone. I was like, oh my goodness, like, you don't need to be eating animal products. It's totally unnecessary. It's cruel. It's vile. It's horrific. It really is. And yeah, especially the situation I was in at the time, my health was in jeopardy, wasn't a good place. And then going vegan, initially, my health improved. So I wanted to tell everyone about it. It's like, wow, like, you can be fit and healthy. You don't need to harm anyone. You don't need to harm yourself. You don't need to contribute any kind of damage to the environment, planet. So I get that when people get excited, and it's the same as the fruit situation. When my eyes opened up even more, my life opened up more. Going to fruit, it's like, oh my goodness, like, this is like what we're all here for. You know, be connected with nature, have a symbiotic relationship with nature, in harmony with ourselves and with everyone else, without causing any harm, and feeling amazing. There's no need to eat cooked food and processed food, like the conventional vegan stuff as well, which I feel does hold us back. So then again, you know, there's wanting to share that message, seeing the devastation in the world. And I do sense a lot of people come from a good, kind-hearted place when they want to convince others to change and follow their lifestyle, because look at the devastation and destruction in the world. You know, this is one way. You know, if everyone went, let's say, vegan or plant-based, like, that's going to make a huge, huge difference to the planet and to the environment, and to people's connection with one another and the environment. People being more friendly, more happy, more loving. That's how I see it. That's why I always preach and go on about fruit. So going back to what I align with Pete is playing around with labels. I come to a realization that I don't like to be attached and tied to identities, because I know I'm much more than that. I'm not limited to one thing, or as a character, so to speak. But I do play with the label, like fruitarian, raw vegan, though I do, you know, mostly only eat fruit, only fruit and raw food. But I like to say now that I'm a realized frugivore rather than a fruitarian, because I really feel that we're all frugivores and we just haven't realized it yet. And yeah, that's what I like to share and play around with that. And yeah, that's what I have to share on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to go to Bella. Bella, does a song come to mind?
Does a song come to mind?
Yeah, so Bella is a voice coach and a music teacher. So yeah, does any song come to mind that you could belt out right now?
Wow. On our topic, yeah, actually, you know what it makes me think of is the song that Mr. Rogers used to sing.
So most of us don't know who Mr. Rogers is.
Oh,
So
right. Because you all have accents. None of you are from America. There was a very popular children's show in the 70s and 80s. Fred Rogers, and he was a lovely human being on public broadcasting. And he was originally a musician. That's where his college training came in. And he saw television as being a threat, really, to the psyche of children. And so he decided to create a children's TV show. And his whole thing was to project And he was a vegetarian, by the way. And he wanted to project a feeling of calm and kindness and respect for people, no matter who they were. And he was a great example. And he had this one song that he would sing, and I'll just sing a little bit of it for you. But it goes, "It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you wear your hair, but it's you I like. The way you are right now, the way down deep inside you, not the things that hide you, not your toys, they're just beside you, but it's you I like. Everything you," I don't remember the rest of the words, but it's essentially a song about accepting people as they are. And I think that's what we're trying to talk about here. It's about understanding that people who eat meat, we want them to be more like us, but we have to try to understand where they're coming from.
I actually want nobody to be like me. It's him not being like me, for me being like me. I have my own job in me being like me. So that was absolute. I am so moved by that. I'm thrilled with those words. Thanks for using your voice to do this, Bella.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sabina, how do you feel about the words in that song? And do you know it, by the way, by any chance?
No, I don't know. I grew up in Germany, so I don't know who Mr. Roger is, but you have a beautiful voice, Bella. Thank you so much for sharing your beauty. And what was the question again? Dorit, what was the question?
I had to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we're speaking about the fact that all of us in this life, we have our own journey, pretty much. We're talking about transformation. And that means we all transform at different rates, different speed. We transform in different ways. Our transformation takes on different syllables, different vibrational energies. And one of the things that we're speaking about is moving from a slaughterhouse mentality to actually the idea of maybe we are plant-based beings. And how do we then transform that way without putting others down who do not feel that need?
Yes, I mean, I shared before already that I was at some point very judgmental, sitting with meat eaters at the table, thinking why I still eating that, and feeling superior. To be honest, yeah, I was in that frequency for a long time, until I really learned about judgment. And it was one very powerful teaching that was kind of an awakening. That is, there is no other. And the moment we judge, we create separation, and that is the other. That's me, this is who I am, and this is the other person. And really learning, there's no other. Yeah. And what we see in others is actually within ourselves. So when we judge others, we are judging ourselves more than anything. So that was a big opening, and really being aware of how many people are judgmental, especially in the health field. And that causes separation. So I'm at this point, I only want to be around people who are, and actually the most person in my life who is the most loving, like someone who is like, I just have so much admiration. And she eats meat, she eats dairy, she has actually a very, very different lifestyle, but she radiates. I mean, she looks really healthy. Her energy is so healthy because I've never seen her being judgmental to anyone. She's just this love and has that heart. Yeah, that to me is actually very attractive. So that friendship with that woman that I have for many years, and she was always there when I was in trouble or in challenges. So, and she has it's the heart frequency, which I think is the most beautiful thing that we can embody. And I think that's really where it starts, not seeing the other as and seeing everyone as a divine being of light. And wherever they are in their journey, that's just what they're choosing right now. And to accept that and to have an open heart and realizing there is no other, there's only one. There's only one of us here all the time. So this is one of the most powerful teaching, which really made me aware of my own judgment and really look at how I label people, how I put myself into a certain box, and having to come to terms with that. It's not pretty to look at yourself and to see at where you are playing small, where you're hiding out, where you're avoiding and denying and judging and all that. So that was a big part of my journey, and I just want to share that.
I always thoroughly enjoy your take on everything, and thank you so much for that, Sabina. So I'd like to just think about this, co-hosts. What if, just what if, everyone here on Earth, and we're billions, right? We all came here to realize something within ourselves that will bring us back to the one, to one being, one creator who creates this entire universe, to bring us back to the seed of the universe. So if I don't like you because you eat this, or you don't eat this, or you eat it sometimes in the morning but never in the evenings, that's how silly it becomes. Or that you only want to eat this in the winter but not this in the summer. What if none of that really matters? That we all have a different path. This Sunday, I'm going to be going to a memorial, and I've been asked to give an obituary, and I've been asked to start the whole thing. And I don't know what I'm going to say. All I know is that this gentleman, who I absolutely adored, who has now actually transitioned, chose a path that I would never have chosen, ever. And I adored him. I found his path for me to be very painful. And the greatest gift he gave me was accepting the path that he went on. The book, Being Healthy, which is the book that really provoked and actually is a companion to this live stream, is going to be released in the next 2 weeks. And now I'm going to his memorial and giving, an obituary about him on Sunday. So he doesn't even know this. I've kept this a secret from him so that after its release, he would know that. And it's called Being Healthy. And part of it is just accepting ourselves. To be really, truly healthy is we accept each other's path. My path was not his path. His path was never mine. I realized that when my mother got really sick, and that I was being arrogant to think that she should change her diet, that I thought I knew what she should be doing and what could heal her. That was the height of arrogance in me that was coming out. And I realized, and this is the lesson she taught me, that was her part, her journey. Who am I to tell her to change her soul's journey? When I have my own soul's journey to live out, why am I not focusing on my own soul's journey? That was huge. So when Rob came into my life, he was the gentlest, most incredibly tender human. And he has made his transition. And I'm not angry with him for doing that. I know some people think, oh, they're angry. I could, or once ago I would have thought, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. I did take him down another path and have him try it, just for trying. And he was so open, but in the end, he ended up actually, his doctors amputated one of his legs, trying to save him from cancer and things like that. All the things which I'm so horrified about. And he taught me to accept that that was his path, and that was his own soul's journey. He fulfilled his soul's journey. Mine is not the same. I need to be focusing on what mine is and not trying to push mine off on him. And think that is the epitome of what being healthy is. This live stream is called Being Healthy, not Be Healthy, because I don't think we can ever arrive at being healthy. It's a constant process that we're dancing with. We're dancing with this journey here on Earth. And I used to be a professional dancer, so I use the word dancing a lot. I like to use people who sing like Bella to speak about voice and bring about using their voice to really shift the energy and the vibration with for us and within their own lives, but only if they are want to shift their own vibration. So I think that those of us who have taken this path, a very narrow path, by the way, I think, those of us who have taken this path, we need to be fully present for ourselves. When we're fully present for ourselves, we don't even realize that somebody else is going a different path. I have no idea what most of the people in my life eat. Most of the people in my life, I would say 99.9%, have no idea what I eat. So it has never come up because it's just one of the silliest things I've ever thought about is that what somebody eats is important to me. What's important to me is how they treat themselves and how they treat me and how I feel in their presence. Do I feel in their presence like I did with Rob, that I was in the presence of this tender creature who actually drew out the tenderness within me? I certainly was not going to be focusing on what he's eating, why he's sick, and blaming that on him. It's the most absurd thing that we do that. And I'm so glad that my mother's leaving the earth, which was so painful for me, taught me to accept her path, her journey, and not to tell anybody, but have you thought of changing your diet or changing this? I write books, I do interviews, I do streams like that, and I tell my own story. And that's why we're now telling our own stories of transformation. I think rather than tell people what they ought to be doing, when we tell our own stories and we stand strong in them, then that gives people an opportunity to listen. Otherwise, we block them off. We shut them down without realizing it or not. And I think by being an inspiring person in our own lives, that's the only way we can inspire others. How do you feel about this, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went through a similar thing with my mum actually. In 2015, she was diagnosed, and well, misdiagnosed, and then a friend of mine was like, "Your mum's in trouble." So I told my mum, and I said, "Well, you know, I'll buy the juicer. We can do the juicing. We can get you well. We can do it. You know, we can do that and see what happens." Anyway, at the time I was going off to Thailand, so I bought a juicer. Well, a new juicer. Left it for my mum and said, "Mum, whatever you do, juice every day. You need to do this. You've got to juice every day." Went to Thailand. Came back a month later. She hadn't touched the juicer, and she was going downhill. And then eventually she was rushed into hospital and had an operation, but they couldn't do what they wanted to. And they gave her chemo and all other sorts of things. So I did my best to support my mum. And the thing that I learned there was really strongly, it's not my journey. It's not my journey. I just have to love my mum and support my mum to the very best of my ability with her decisions, and then support her with my knowledge within her decisions to the best that we could. And they said that she had 2 to 3 years to live, and we gave her nearly 10. So yeah, that's I had to let go of all my judgment, or what I thought was right, or what I thought was wrong, and support her in her choices. And she'd say to me, "Well, what can I do? What can I take? What can I eat to support me in this now? You know, what can I do?" So because of what she had there, we were very limited of what we could and couldn't do. So I just had to learn a new way and a new way to really support her journey and allow her to be on her soul's journey, because it's not mine. And to be really honest, it was tough at times, because I thought I knew best, but clearly I didn't. So I had to let it go and let my mum be my mum and support her to the best of my ability.
Huge lesson, isn't it? And a gift which you now can give to yourself too. And by giving that to yourself, only when we've absorbed the gift do others benefit from that.
Yeah, it's another thing that builds wisdom, right? It's that wisdom that everybody is on their own path, and we have to support them to the best of our ability on that path with no judgment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Bella, how do you feel about that?
I think this is a really important topic, and this is something that I've thought about often in my life, because I think whenever you are the kind of person that makes, how do I say this? Strong, I want to say extreme, forgive me, but when you take extreme measures to try and live a certain moral code, it can be very easy to fall into the trap of judging other people. And perhaps it has more to do with judging yourself, judging your past self for the ways that you couldn't be before you had the awakening moment, which inspired you to make the radical changes in your own life. And it can be hard to see that other people are on a totally different path. But I do think that, like you were saying, Dorit, it's your path. And that's really what leads to health, is when you are focused on your path as opposed to being concerned about how other people are living out their path. And at this point, I really feel very strongly that if somebody wants my help, they will find me, and I will give them as much information as I can possibly give them to help them along the way. But I'm not going to concern myself about how other people are living, and I'm not going to try to push my way of being onto them. It doesn't work, first of all. And I've found that people they do become inspired by you. If you just show a good example, if you just keep living your life like the way you believe that it should be lived, people notice those things. And those who are supposed to ask for your help and your opinion, they will ask. And it's better to just, I think, let people be the way they are and I think it's also good to work on being aware of your own tendency to judge. I'm aware that I have a tendency to be judgmental, and I try to notice it whenever those things come up, and I try to work on it, because it doesn't help my health at all to be judgmental at all.
Absolutely. Brava. It goes back to our health. It goes back to being healthy. When we judge people, and I love the fact that you said, Bella, this was really wonderful insight, that when we're so busy judging others who are now where we used to be, what we're doing is really judging ourselves as we were at that time. And it has nothing to do with that other person. But I think instead of taking responsibility for ourselves and being okay with ourselves, realizing that that's what got us to where we are now, and that there might be another level that we need to get to as well. When we're okay with that, then that's what being healthy is. It's a process. It's allowing ourselves to be fully present for ourselves in the past, in the present, and if there's a future, also then too. Sabine, I would love to hear you speak on this.
Yeah, I mean, when we judge, we actually going against ourselves, because somehow it's like we feel we need to prove something, that we're better than the other. And whenever we feel we need to prove something, that comes from a place of not feeling full enough, not feeling worthy, or not feeling good enough. So we need to prove that we're better than the other. So it's actually something we have to start looking within first. Oh, the sun is coming in. Why we need to prove? Where do we feel we're not enough? Because when you truly feel enough, there's really nothing to prove. That's really it. So that's something, the realization that I really had. What do I need to prove? Why do I need to prove that I'm better because I'm eating cleaner than that person? Where do I still feel not good about myself, that I need to constantly project it outwardly? And that's where the work comes in. It's the inner work, realizing, okay, I had to fill myself so full that so I'm not just full, I'm also in overflow mode. There's no reason that I ever need to put someone else down, because all I want to share is love, because I feel so full. I'm in overflow mode all the time. And I want to give this to others by sharing my love and my light instead of putting someone else down, so I can feel better about myself.
Thank you, Sabina. Brava. And Herb, so for everyone, I'm going to give 30 seconds each of the co-hosts. We cannot go past 30 seconds. Otherwise, the show will end with us midstream. So, Herb?
Yes, a massive, huge amount of respect and love for everyone for sharing their stories. That's very touching and revealing and real. Acknowledging everyone's outlook and experiences. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, acknowledging what's been shared, what Sabina said, you know, it's all about the heart frequency as well. Recognizing where people are, that's the most powerful, potent thing in the world. And yes, there are many paths up the mountain, and it is to be an example, be that shining light, and be an inspiration for others to see the difference of what has impacted your life and your way of life, and what brings you love and love and joy. But it has been a battle for me over the years. I have been conflicted with that, wanting to see people make a difference to themselves. But with all that's considered, it's very difficult to see people in pain and hurting when you know the answers and things like that, what they could do to alleviate their suffering, and know what people are up against. I really do feel it's important to be vocal and have a voice to counteract what people are bombarded with. You know, we're living in a fake world where people things are pushed onto us, you know, the constant bombardment of advertisements, lies. And I think it is valid and important to speak up and share your truth. And yeah, it's been a battle for me over the years, seeing people walking around with like a noose around their neck. You just want to take it off and see them happy, and yeah, see the world a better place. So it's very hard to accept, but when you come to acceptance, you're in heaven, and anything that you reject, you do find yourself in hell, and you really do have to be conscious of that. And as you say, it's about being healthy, not to be healthy. So yeah, thank you very much for all that you shared.
We need to actually continue that next week. That's a theme we will continue for sure next week. Thank you, Pete. We are going to be having the last word, Pete. Let me just...
Okay, yeah, I've been in and out internet, so I've missed a lot. I'm sure the voice by Bella was beautiful. I have to revisit that. So yeah, I mean, a big thing, healthy boundaries, you know, and of course, if we want to be inspired by any people, like I was by certain people, you know, seek them out, be around them, you know, and it's the journey. I realized long time ago when I ventured into more esoteric stuff, astrology, that was for me. I wanted to share. So, you know, I've embodied that. It's for me, and whoever crosses my path, you know, not such thing as a coincidence. So I just share when I can.
Thank you so much for that. And Phil, welcome aboard. Wonderful to have you with us. And see you all next week, same place, same time. Please share this video so that others may know there is a path where we can all just accept each other. Bye, everyone. Thank you.